Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here on this beautiful Saturday, April 10th, to discuss a very competitive 7-game NBA slate. It's going to be a good one today. We've got the 7-game main slate that we're covering at DFS Coach Talk, and then we have a nice 3-game after-hour slate that all start at 10 Eastern that we'll also be providing for. So let's dive right into this because it is a super Saturday packed day here with the Masters going on. Can't wait to jump back in front of that and catch some of it. Saw Phil birdie the first couple of holes. So always root for the old guys to shine one last time. So I'm hoping he continues to do well. And then, of course, we've got baseball all day. We've got an early slate and an afternoon slate that our pros are covering at Coach Talk, being the one and only Mr. Josh Davis, known as Crash, and our own Tyler Pitzer, as I'm now going to call him TP. TP and Crash is the duo we have this weekend for baseball, and they are going to kill it. All right, how about we go right smack dab into the middle of this slate, right off the bat with the first game. We get the extra half an hour in baseball. I always love when we get that extra 30 minutes or an hour. It happens maybe once a week, but it just lets you prepare a little better. I know it seems to make it shouldn't be a big difference, but it seems to feel like it when it's happening. So we've got the Toronto Raptors at 20-32 at the Cleveland Cavaliers 19-32. We have a 3.5-point favorite Toronto spread here, and our all of our lines are provided by one of our partners here, BetUS.com.pa. Fantastic site for all of your wagering. It is 3.5 Toronto, 219 over under. And then as far as pace goes, we've got Toronto 8th and Cleveland 21st. And we have defensive efficiency. We like to really take a dive in, especially on the weekends when I go solo and I have just a little bit more time. So defensive efficiency-wise, Toronto's 12th, Cleveland is 21st. So nothing to write home about there. The big news here, we know Van Vliet is out, but Lowry is actually questionable. So I don't think he's going to play, to be honest with you, from what I read, but he is questionable. So we're not counting him out just yet. We need to follow that news. It's always nice when you have a questionable guy that really is questionable that's in the early game, because you can, we're going to know that news beforehand. And then on the Cleveland side, the same guys are out, Allen, Nance, and Windler that had been out before. Let's take a look at the probable lineups here. We've got, if Lowry's in, we have Lowry, Trent, Anunoby, Siakam, and Boucher. If Lowry's out, then Malachi Flynn will start in that spot, and he's been terrific. He has really played himself into a roster spot and a contract and all kinds of other things. So good to see that youngster step up. From the Cleveland side, it is Sexton, Garland, Okoro, Wade, and Love. So, Love paid off for us last time. He's still got that minutes restriction. It's somewhere in that 25 to 28 minute range. So we'll be watching that news throughout the day to see if that's lifted at all, or if he's still going to be constrained by that. Looking at this game, it's interesting. There's certainly some playable pieces here. There's also some one-offs you can take a run at. Boucher went completely ballistic this last game. I mean, we talk about it all the time on here. Andrew and I go back and forth and say, why does Boucher not play more? When he's in there, he just goes nuts. And you would think Toronto, 12 games under 500, would want a young guy. He's not really that young, though. That's the amazing thing. People think he is, but he bounced around, and he's 28 years old. So he's not a guy that, doesn't understand the game. So He needs, I think he needs big minutes. I think he deserves them. Will he start or not? We've got him projected to start right now. And I think at his price, you can certainly go back to him against a Cleveland team that's somewhat centerless as they're playing Love there. And then Wade plays there a little. And then Hartenstein, plays some decent center minutes for them. But Boucher, again, perfect matchup for him to crush it. I think you got to take a look at him. I mean, the guy pushed a 40-20 game. He almost had 40 points and 20 rebounds. Not quite, but he was there close. So whenever you've got that kind of ability and a guy on a roll, I'm hoping he gets the minutes, but he's definitely in my player pool without question. If Lowry does come back on the slim chance, I'm not even going to think about it because there'll be a minutes restriction of some sort, coming off this injury to his toe or foot, whatever it is. So not really interested there. Siakam is a guy you can always look to because, he's just so ball dominant. I mean, they run everything for him. His usage is through the roof. So, Siakam becomes in play also. And, a guy that's really paid off a few times I've used him and quietly is Anunoby. I mean, he's been very steady for them, and he hits all 5 categories for you to chip in. So for me, I really do have 3 playable Raptors. I'm not going to stack them. I'm going to choose 1 or 2 of them and move down the road there. As far as Cleveland goes, Sexton's terrific, and I love to play him, but his price has been so high that it makes it very tough. But I am going to consider him here because I think the matchup really does fit for him, as well as Malachi Flynn on the other side if Lowry sits. I think those 2 point guards can, duel pretty well. Neither one spectacular defensively by any stretch, especially Sexton. So those guys are in play. Garland, Okoro, Wade, not interested there. The only way I play Love, even though he did make value for me last time, is if I hear that minutes restriction went up. So, could have 2-3 guys from this game right off the jump. I just think it's conducive to a game that should have some good pace. Defense is shaky. And, with some key guys out, you get usage spikes from some of these other guys. So I like that first game for sure. All right, we've got a full hour then till the next game, 8:30. It is the LA Lakers at 32-20 at the Brooklyn Nets 36-16. Certainly expected this to be a barn burner, awesome game with all these superstars, but 3 of the 5 big superstars are out. So, and also you've got a Brooklyn team that's playing great and an LA team that is not, without, of course, LeBron and AD. And if anybody ever thought LeBron wasn't an MVP guy, come on, man. They were winning games, not as good as they did with AD, of course, but they were still winning games and competitive with LeBron. As soon as he went out, the Lakers looked like a lottery team half the time. So, yeah, dude, I just can't deny LeBron. Even the haters, because the big Jordan debate and all that, regardless, LeBron is the king, man. He is something else. All right, so that in that game, it is a 11-point favorite for Brooklyn, and you're going to see on this slate, this is the slate of blowout potential, which, me, I mean, I'm one of those guys that do factor in blowout potential. A lot of people don't. They say you can't predict a blowout. I get that, and sometimes it doesn't work out, but there's a lot of times I'll fade a guy because of that major blowout potential, and he loses 6-8 minutes at least, and that just murders you in your DFS points. So I think you got to look at these factors, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of the 7 games are double-digit favoritism. I haven't seen that in a long time, and the 6th one is 9-point spread. So you almost have 6 out of 7 blowout potential games. So, man, is this, but don't let it intimidate you. A lot of people are going to say, okay, screw it then. We'll just treat them all the same, because they're all potential blowouts, but I don't feel that way. I think some of these games truly are strong blowout potential, and some I think the spread is too high, and I think it stays close. So let's go over those and factor that into what we're doing here. So I know some of the analytics statistical guys are going to say that's flubberguster or whatever you want to call it without swearing, but I'm telling you, I've done this since day one of DFS, and I've watched and been involved in basketball forever. And if you don't think those rotations change and the coaches see the potential of a blowout and can feel it coming, and everybody's playing so many games now, you've got a bunch of teams, 5 games in 7 days, on and on. I could explain why I think this is a strong factor. So I am going to continue to advise in that direction. All right. We have pace-wise, Lakers 14th, Brooklyn 9th. So that's a good factor. Lakers are somehow hung on to the number 1 defensive spot, almost by default there. I don't know, a couple of teams slipping a little bit defensively at the top. Brooklyn is up to 22, which doesn't sound great, but it's certainly better than 29 where they were when they first put those superstars together. So they have made some improvement there. As far as injuries, Lakers have 3 questionable players all in their rotation, and that's Kuzma, Caruso, and Gasol. So we need news there. And then for Brooklyn, we know the Beard is out, and Tyler Johnson is hurt pretty good. He's going to be out for a while. Probable lineups right now for the Lakers are Schroeder, Caldwell Pope. If Kuzma's in, he's leaning 2 in as opposed to sitting, but we need confirmation there. Morris, Markieff that is, and Mr. Andre the Toe Drummond, and all the other nicknames he has. So he's in there. Brooklyn, Kyrie, Harris, KD, Jeff Green, and LaMarcus. And we know Griffin gets a good run in there. They've got a solid group of bench guys going. So how do we see this game unfolding? I think Brooklyn has them massively outmanned here. I really do. I'm be interested to see if LA can hang in there. But as far as the playable guys, I think, Schroeder's price has been just ridiculous ever since LeBron went out, especially. It just jumped like 1,500. But Schroeder's a possibility here without question if he can afford the salary. Don't trust Kuzma even if he is in, or Markieff. I mean, you can look at Andre Drummond without question. I mean, we know that in the past he's an easy 20 rebound guy on a game where he gets the minutes. And, Brooklyn often plays without a true center on the floor, with LaMarcus or Blake even sliding in, or Jeff Green. So you got 3 basically, power forwards that play center for Brooklyn. Claxton gets in a little. DJ's pretty much been out of the rotation. So DeAndre Jordan, yeah. So Drummond, I got to give him a look here. His price is still decent enough. We know the pace is going to be there this game. And, I know it's painful because the first time pretty much all of us jumped on Andre, he played very limited minutes there with the whole toe shenanigans. So, but he's in play for me. I'm definitely considering rostering him. As far as the big dogs, KD came off the bench last game. I think he'll slide into the starting lineup. He did say in an interview that he enjoyed coming off the bench. It was a better perspective. He liked it. So, if he talks Nash into it, it may happen, but he's going to get decent minutes. And even though he was out for so long, the dude is ridiculous. I mean, he just doesn't have any parameters that fall under common sense. He comes back from injury and looks like he never missed a second. So, KD's price is super high, but he's a playable commodity. You got to look at him as playable. Kyrie Irving, same thing. I mean, playing terrific. Price is high, but, I think he's another guy that could just blow this up. So, if it stays close enough, there's certainly playable pieces here. I'm not doing somersaults, to roster certainly uh, the majority of my salary with both a Durant and Irving. But I think, I am interested in one or the other. I think you're going to get a lot of people a little bit afraid to play Durant because it's only his second game back. But I am going to, really be following the news very closely to hear, what are his minutes restrictions and how is that going to play out. And if it is, severe, like 20 minutes or something, which I think it'll be more than that, then Kyrie becomes more in play to me. As far as the second guy goes for Brooklyn, Joe Harris is always an option just because he does get minutes and usage, specifically with Harden out of the game. But the other guys are all pitching in. LaMarcus Aldridge has made himself a playable guy too. I mean, he's getting minutes, he's producing, and seems to just be fitting right into what they're trying to do. But it is hard, with Blake and Green and then, like I say, a little bit of Claxton, and there's just a lot of bodies that they're moving in and out there, and it makes it very hard to get a guy that doesn't have a really constrained ceiling. So for me, it's probably one of the big dogs for Brooklyn and possibly Drummond on the other side. So I am considering, uh, some definite possibilities in this game, and I would like to have some exposure. All right, let's go to game 3. It is a 9 o'clock game, so we have 2 9 o'clock games then, and then we have the 3 late evening 10 o'clock after hours slate as well. The 9 o'clock Philadelphia 76ers at 35-17 against the Oklahoma City Thunder at 20-32. Philadelphia is a 11-point favorite, and it's only a 217 over under. The big news here, Joel Embiid questionable. Coming back from the injury, playing quite a few minutes this past week on that return. Perfect spot to sit him against a Thunder team. He's listed questionable now. I did my research with counting him out, but again, that is completely unverified. So, you want to stay tuned with us in Discord throughout the day when we get that news. But in building this, I'm going to think that he sits. Then on the Oklahoma City side, we know Shea's out for quite some time with a pretty severe injury. Probable Baisley, who's returning, and then questionable on Dort, Hall, and Roby. So we have, some serious question marks there. As far as probable lineup, Simmons, Curry, Green, Harris, and I have Howard in there if Embiid sits. Teo Maladone for Oklahoma, Mikhailuk, Kenrich, Williams, Poku, and Moses Brown. So similar type of lineup for them. They're also getting a lot of minutes for, multiple people off the bench. Now Baisley jumps back into the mix, with several other guys of these young players, Ty Jerome. People are getting decent usage. Philadelphia's defense was murdered last time. This last game, they just got their doors blown in, and they're a top defense. They are second defensively in the league. Didn't look like it the last game, and Oklahoma City's 24th. As far as pace, the reason this game is palatable is they're 12th and 6th. And again, that 11 number is fair, but I think it comes down a point or two if Embiid does sit. If he plays it, it may actually go up a point or two. I think it's just shifting in between. So that news is important to me because I think that, changes the game flow. Philly's going to be ticked off that they got, gave up so many points. They should come out motivated. Oklahoma City is you got to scratch your head all the time. How they've won 20 games this year is mind-bending to me with really a G League and Summer League type of roster. I mean, it's craziness. But there's guys getting it done, and there's guys I'm looking at here. I think, Maladone having to face Simmons defense, I can't go there. Mikhailuk is a decent play. He's a boomer bust, more GPP because if he's hitting, he'll get some extra minutes. If he's not, you're going to get Ty Jerome and a lot of guys getting minutes, chopping away at him, and he's splitting time. Kenrich has been pretty steady. I mean, his price is low. He's not a bad value fill in here. And Pokachevsky too. I mean, Poku has made my clipboard a couple of times now. He's in there. When he's in there, he's shooting. He's getting rebounds. He's, starting to get a couple of stocks here and there. I mean, he's a project, but, he's playable at that price. And then Moses Brown. I mean, we need the news for sure. I mean, if Moses Brown plays and for some reason Bazley and Roby sit, then I think Moses Brown gets enough minutes and run at the 5 that you got to play him. But Bazley and Roby definitely can pull some of those minutes with the 4-5. And then Moses' price, has now gone up. If he has to face Embiid, forget it. Not even a second thought for me. But if Embiid is out, even though Dwight Howard is solid, he'll get some run against Scott. So, if we get a scratch from Roby and or Bazley, then I think as long as Embiid is sitting, then Brown becomes an option. A lot of things have to fall into place there. But interesting, may have a one-off, not a game I'm going to focus on. And we definitely need that news. So, all right, let's go to the other 9 o'clock game. It's an interesting one. It is Sacramento Kings at 22-30, Utah at 39-13. We have a 12.5 point favoritism for Utah, and it's a 231.5 total, which is our biggest number on the board. So again, we've got the Utah Jazz involved with a high scoring game. But it's not because of the Utah Jazz. It's because of the Sacramento Kings. They are still dead last. They have quite a grip on last in defensive efficiency in the league. Utah's third. But this is what I like, 7th and 15th in pace. People think Utah plays super slow. They don't. They're in the middle of the pack. They don't run things through Gobert. Gobert's a sort of a secondary guy, or he'll run pick and roll with you, but they're not going to give him the ball like a lot of teams do with Embiid or the Joker, where they run things through him. So what that does is it speeds up play. Conley, Mitchell, Clarkson when he's in, even Joe. I mean, Ingles. They push the ball, they get it up to the wing, and they make some things happen. And that's magic to the ears of the Sacramento players because they're looking for that pace. As far as injuries go, we know Bagley continued to be out. It is the debut for Damian Jones, who will probably, get a few backup minutes behind Richaun Holmes for Sacramento. And then the only guy out, it looks like more than likely for Utah, is Clarkson. He's doubtful. So, that's been amazing for them that they have had such a string of good health for their players. I hope it continues, but certainly makes a big difference. So the probable starting lineups here are Fox, Hield, Harkless. I don't know if you saw the dunk Harkless had in this last game. Look up Mo Harkless from Sacramento Kings in this last game. He had an absolutely insane, like 2-tiered dunk, phenomenal. It's one of the best I've seen this year, and from an odd guy too. And then you have Barnes and Richaun Holmes. And then for Utah, it is the usual group of Conley, Mitchell, Bogey, O'Neal, and Gobert, as I like to call him. But we know he's a Frenchman, so it's Gobert. All right. What do we think is going to happen here? 231.5. How much exposure? Is it a risk? Yeah, I mean, there's risk here. I mean, it's the Jazz. The Jazz could easily put the clamps on Sacramento and blow their doors in, and then we've got an issue. If they're going to hang in there and at least it stays competitive, then this could be a boxcars game. There's no doubt about it. You got to absolutely love the way De'Aaron Fox has been playing. I've been playing him a ton lately. Not as thrilled in this matchup with Conley defense, who's a little scrappy defensively. At that price, you got to really be all in on him. And he's terrific. I admit that. But, I don't think I'm going to go to the well in this one. Really, the other guys for Sacramento, Barnes having to deal with O'Neal, Holmes having to go against Gobert. It's a rough matchup for Sacramento. So, as much as I like that this game has great potential and it's the highest point total on the slate, I'm not stacking here. I mean, it may be a one or two guys at the max, and the guys I'm thinking about here, are actually Conley and Bogey because of the pricing. I think that their price is doable. You don't have to unload the coffers, and you can have a couple of players for representation. And I got to say, the without question, I mean, to roster a couple of guys against Sacramento on every slate is a fantastic idea. It really is. I mean, Sacramento gets scorched. It's a matter of choosing the right guys. You don't want to overstack because there's always potential of a blowout. But I am considering Conley, Mitchell, Bogdanovich, leaning towards Conley and Bogdanovich in that order. But I'm not adverse to Conley Mitchell. I'm really not. I think Mitchell's fairly priced for how good he is. And that makes, a possibility of that backcourt showing up for me in Utah. So that I will have exposure there, but I'm not stacking. I don't think that's a true comfortable, stack game like we've seen with the different teams like Golden State, Minnesota, etc. So that's where I stand. We've got 3 games left, and real quickly here, want to mention, love to join us at DFS Coach Talk. Go to our website, dfscoachtalk.com. You can sign up for as little as a 3-day pass for $10. We have multiple different memberships that you can sign up for. And the thing with all of our memberships is you don't just get the sport that if it's the MLB, for example, membership that we offer that goes until November 1, you get all 4 of our sports. We do the 4 major sports. We're doing basketball, baseball, football, and we are doing golf. So those are the main sports that we focus on. We have pros. We don't do, skeet shooting and cross-country skiing and all these other things because we want to focus and dominate the sports that we do. But with every package, you have access to all our content, all of our podcasts, and all of our lineups. And in major sports, all of them, we generally do 2 slates per night. We'll either do an early and a late night main slate, or we'll do the main slate and an after hours. And we'll do that in all of our sports. For example, today, Saturday, if you hear this and join this morning, you'll get the afternoon slate in baseball and then a full evening slate. In the NBA, we've got the full 7-game schedule and then the 3-game after hours. And then later tonight, we'll be posting our 4th round Masters picks for that tomorrow. So, all of that, again, inclusive in everything that we do. So we'd love to have you. You can check us out at DFS Coach Talk on Twitter. Shoot us any questions, anything that you'd like to know about how we function, what we do. We're giving Coach's Clipboard, which has a highlighted group of players for DraftKings with some other options of plays to fill out your roster. Full lineups, though, for FanDuel and Yahoo. So, you're getting a full service provider with a lot of information, and we've had some great success. I've been doing this for 6 years and keeping very stringent statistics, and between 61 and 70% winning percentage, a good portion of the time in all sports, but specifically basketball and baseball for me. So we'd love to have you join us. We also have a weekly meeting of all our members. We jump in, for those that want to, nobody's forced to, that jump into at noon on every Saturday. So that's coming up here in just a bit. And we just get on there, introduce new members, go over some strategy. The biggest discussion we have, and I think the most important two elements of DFS that people just don't talk about, and it should be talked about before any player strategy at all, and that's bankroll management and contest selection. So those are two key things we focus on, and inevitably it comes up every Saturday in our discussion. So we'd love to have you. If you're watching this on YouTube, by the way, real quickly, this is the big ask. We do 7-day-a-week free NBA DFS podcast. Hit the thumbs up, the subscribe button, click the little alert button in the corner so you know when our podcast posts. All right, no further ado. We have three interesting late games. The Houston Rockets at 14, 30, and 38 against the Golden State Warriors at 24 and 28. We have the spread of Golden State by 9 here. Big number for favoritism for them. 226.5. So this is the juicy game. They're 5th and 2nd in pace, 16th and 10th in defense. As far as injuries, there's a possibility that Dante Exum, in fact, he's probable for Houston. We have not seen him, so that will affect some of that rotation. Gordon House and Nwaba remain out. The only guy on the list right now for Golden State is Juan Toscano-Anderson, who is probable. The probable starting lineups are Wall, Porter, Tate, Olynyk, and Wood. They've had a lot of success playing Olynyk at the 4 and Wood at the 5 together. They've created some difficulties for some teams. And then for Golden State, it's the norm: Curry, Wiggins, Oubre, Green, and Wiseman. All right, this game really gives me some interest here because of the matchups, of how this pace will be. I think you just have to start right off with the obvious. Wall and Curry, both fairly expensive for sure, especially Curry. Both very playable though. I mean, they fit this game. The script makes sense. I think they'll get plenty of run, plenty of opportunity, and they're both in play for me. With Wall back, it knocks Porter down a spot for me, so I'm not going to go there. Kelly O is certainly a consideration at that cheap price. He's played very well for them. Christian Wood is going to be a pay-up center that probably a lot of guys are going to go to, and deservedly so. I mean, he's a stud. He's playing against that rotation of centers, especially Wiseman, who's getting more and more minutes. But as a rookie, you would think Wood would be able to take advantage of that matchup. So for me, really, considering Wall, a little bit of a possibility of one of the bigs there with the value of Olynyk or the pay up of Wood for sure. And then on the Warriors side, after Curry, I think, there's a few guys overpriced. I think Oubre's overpriced, and he's probably going to get Tate defense, which is no fun. And same with Wiggins. He may get some Tate defense also. I don't like to go there with Wiggins unless Curry's out, to be honest with you. Draymond's price is pretty high, but, he's always a threat. And then Wiseman, like I said, he's getting a lot more minutes. His price remains cheap. He's been the value center I've gone to a couple of times, but he's done well. I just don't think that ceiling is where it needs to be. So I doubt that I'm going to take a risk like that on a 9-game slate. So good game, definite exposure to this one. I like this game actually better than the Sacramento and Utah game, even though it's 5 points less in the over-under. All right, 2 games left. We have Washington Wizards 19 and 32 at the Phoenix Suns 36 and 15. Right now we've got Phoenix minus 12, so another monster line. 228. So I apologize. That's the second highest. The Houston one's the third highest. 228's the over/under. Phoenix is 25th pace. We know they dominate the slowdown ball. Washington first. Defensively, Washington 26, Phoenix 6. So you've got two polar opposite type of teams here. The big thing is Beal. He, did not get it done for me last night. I was very upset with Mr. Beal, so I'm not going to use any of the words that I stated to Beal as he was on the TV sitting on the bench. Anyway, he's questionable, so I'm very concerned there. If he sits, it's so hard not to play Westbrook. He's playing like a lunatic, and with Beal out, his numbers go through the roof in almost every category. So it's not one of those scenarios where like Luke is better points per minute DFS when KP plays. There are scenarios like that, but in this one, when Beal sits, Westbrook goes from superstar to superstar. So you definitely want to consider him. Beal, I'm not going to play either way. And that's not just because I'm mad about yesterday. It's because he's definitely not healthy. I think it's mainly his hip that has just not been right since that really bad fall. So can't trust that whatsoever. Denny Advia, he's a punt cheap play that gets 30 some minutes. So possible, but you do have to get a little nausea when you're watching him at times. The guy that I've been playing him, I think I've played him more than anybody else in the NBA in DFS this year. He's probably got more roster spots for me than anyone else. And that's Rui Hachimura, because his price always remains fair. He gets a massive amount of minutes and his usage continues to rise. So super duper love him if Beal sits, still like him a lot, even if Beal plays. I think he's just a really good go-to guy. Don't want to mess with the bigs, the fearful bigs of Len. And, Gafford was nice when he was in, but he's hurt. Now you're back to this, nightmare of Len and then these half hook shots by Lopez. It's painful. Phoenix side, huge pace up game, huge defensive deficient team on the other side. Where do you get the exposure with Phoenix? Andrew and I get to this team and we say the same thing like 30 days in a row. They split it up. We don't know which guy to go to, so it's better not to risk. I get all that, but man, how do you not play somebody here unless you completely game script a blowout? And even in a blowout, like as we all know, and that's why people don't like to call them, somebody has to create the blowout. So, is it enough to overcome not playing in the fourth quarter as part of a blowout? I'm going to look at it this way. I think Chris Paul is playable here against Russ. I think his game rises when he gets that type of opponent, and he is playing good ball, no question about it. Booker is terrific. He's a little pricey, not as bad as some of the other buy-ups. He is definitely playable. Mikal Bridges is not a bad play. I mean, he's going to get Advia defense and, Matthews defense and guys like that. So he is playable. He's sneaky because he'll get you some stocks. He can contribute in a lot of different ways, and his price is good. I'm not interested really in the Crowder-Ayton world. There's a lot of rotation of some guys that are getting minutes there, and it just doesn't seem like Ayton ever smashes. They protect his minutes, and I just don't think he's that great, to be honest with you. So, if it's going to be the Suns, it's going to be a pay-up spot for me for their backcourt. So could end up being the huge game as far as pay-up if I do somehow end up with a Westbrook-Paul kind of scenario, and I don't think it's avoidable, especially if Beal sits on the Westbrook side. All right, how about Game 7, Lucky 7? This will finish the entire card, and it is a good one. Detroit Pistons, 16-36. I mean, the card is good, not this game. Detroit is 16-36 against Portland, 30-21. And again, blowout script city here. We've got Portland 11.5, 226, nice fair total. But you've got a bad Detroit team with their best player, Grant, out, Ellington and Magruder out, and Plumlee questionable. So you're shorthanded, you stink, and you got to go play Portland, who's got 30 wins and trying to position themselves for the defense or for the playoffs. So I don't know, man. This game scares me on the blowout side for sure, and that's why it's not going to be a major play for me. Um, Detroit, if Plumlee sits, I've made it known I'm a huge Isaiah Stewart fan. I think he's got such a great motor and just a lot of good possibilities. And Nurkic is out for Portland, which means Cantor is playing. So yes, Cantor is definitely in play. And with his defense, Isaiah Stewart would be definitely in play. So this is where I like these two centers a lot. Um, there may be the possibility on DraftKings and Yahoo where you can play two that I'll roster both. That's the two spots I feel comfortable with. Even if it blows out, there should be a bunch of rebounds, enough time to get some things done for those guys to make value and then some. The guys I'm going to steer from are Lillard, McCollum, and Powell, and even Covington because he's so expensive. They're set up for a great game. I mean, it's against Detroit, so my problem is I don't see one of them just stepping out and going nuts. I think you just have all of them play well and scratch to get to value. And when you spend that kind of money on a Lillard or McCollum, especially, and you're just trying to squeak to 5x, that's not usually going to get it done on this kind of slate. I guess Powell and Covington under that theory would be a little bit more playable because they have, can do that and be 7x or so. So in that case, the possibility is there. On the Detroit side, lots of rotation with the guards, even with these guys out. Smith Jr. played okay last time. Josh Jackson seems to be a big punt play for a lot of people. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. Sadiq Bey, he's been decent in games, not, consistent, which you would expect from a rookie. But, he becomes playable here also. And then you have Kojo. Kojo has been the pleasant surprise. He's playable. I think he got real fired up as Andrew had pointed out and stated on the podcast before that, and was a great projection. He smashed his old team Sacramento. Will he be as fired up and get enough minutes here against Portland? He could. Kojo's a good player. He's underrated. I thought they won that trade. I think he's a better player than they traded for, and they also had they got a pick along with it, or two seconds, I think, something ridiculous for DeLon Wright. That was lopsided to me. But anyway, Kojo, is in the discussion. So there's some guys you can go to. I prefer the two centers here the most, and probably won't have any salary left for the big dudes of the backcourt of Portland. Let's see, what else was there? Did I forget anything there? I did give the pace 20 and 16, the defense 20 and 29, which gets your attention, and why I do want some exposure, at least on the interior in this game. All right, that is it. We have all seven up, 7 down. We are ready to hammer this slate. We're ready to hammer the whole weekend. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. It's beautiful, sunny here in Dallas, nice temperatures. I mean, this is my favorite time of the year. You've got, just coming off the NCAA tournament, we have baseball really geared up, and seeing fans in the stands is just crazy. I, watched the Rangers a little bit last night, and 40,000 fans in there cheering, booing. I mean, we're actually getting back to normal. So great stuff, great sports this weekend. Enjoy it. Join us at dfscoachtalk.com. Come and check us out, because all of this news, we'll post some things on Twitter. We're at DFS Coach Talk. I'm at Joe Sarvadi, JoeSarvadi. Andrew is at Language Olympic, and we're going to have to also start sharing, and I'll make a note to do that. Also be sharing Crash Davis's Twitter, and as well as Tyler Pitzer. So we're going to have all the team on there chit-chatting with everybody. So I've got to prepare here quickly for our weekly coach talk gathering that we have on our Discord. So I am going to sign off here, but I will be back tomorrow for the Sunday slate as well. So look forward to talking to you then. Thank you so much for listening in, and we'll be back tomorrow when we look to crush it in DFS.